Hi, today we're coming to the last of our passages in our series, the 12 passages of Reparenting Your Inner Child, which the Rebbe taught to children and which we are trying to apply both to education and to ourselves. This verse states as follows: a Jew should rejoice in their Creator. What does it mean to rejoice in our Creator? That I have to find pleasure. I have to rejoice in the joy of God. So that's the second part of the passage. First, I must rejoice in the Creator. Then, what does that mean? Be happy for God's happiness, or allow what makes God happy to make me happy. And then the last part is, and what does make God happy? What's going on down here in this lower realms? His dwelling, finding a dwelling, as we've spoken about previously, in these lower realms. That's what makes God happy. So let's take this apart for a little bit and try and understand what the relevance is. What does it actually mean, and how can we incorporate that in a practical way into our lives? I always think of this verse as speaking of a meta paradigm of joy. You know, in life there are the things that make us happy. So maybe you got a gift that you wanted, or someone complimented you. Whatever it was, there was a specific incident, and that incident made you happy. It gave you joy. The problem with that kind of happiness is when that thing is taken away, then your happiness is taken away. It is dependent, it is talui b'davar, dependent on something. It's not coming from this inner wellspring. So then maybe you could say, well, I'm going to be happy with my own spiritual endeavors. I'm happy that I'm trying to serve God. What happens if you don't try? If you're not trying and you're disappointed in yourself? Or if you try and you think that you failed? As long as our happiness is attached to an end product, it is contingent kind of happiness, and we don't know that we'll have it all the time. Yismach, this last verse, rejoice in your Creator, is teaching us a profound principle on how to be happy. Rejoice for God. Be happy in what makes God happy. That is this meta paradigm of happiness that I've been speaking about, meaning my joy doesn't come from the specifics of my life necessarily. Yes, it may, but I'm not hanging it on that hook of my life being the way I want my life to be. Let's try live the life we have rather than the life that we want. I'm not going to hang my happiness on that hook. What I'll do is focus on God's happiness. When He's happy, I'm happy. I rejoice in what makes God feel good. That's totally free of me. I'm liberated. You know, to give an analogy, you could say, well, you love your child, and then, or you love a friend, etc., your husband, your wife, and you are happy for them. I was just speaking to a friend. She told me she went to a new acupuncturist and how much she likes this acupuncturist because the doctor is truly happy for her when she succeeds. So she says, I'm sure she's also happy for herself. She's being a successful doctor, but there is that piece that she's happy for me. That has levels. I experience joy because you experience joy. But the ultimate dimension of this is I can be happy for God. I'm really devoted to His pleasure or satisfaction or joy. And that's what makes me most happy. Now, how does that free me up? It means it doesn't matter what's going on with me. As long as God would be happy with my response to the situation, I can find happiness in it. And what does bring that joy to God? That we find a way to make this world a dwelling place for Him. Now, I once shared a story in a happiness lecture, but I'm going to relate it here because it is so powerful. Just briefly, it's a story about young boys in the Holocaust who were put into a gas chamber on Simchas Torah. And when they were in this chamber, there was a young boy, they were teenagers, I think, who was a leader amongst them, and he said to them, look, my friends, it was taking time, somehow they couldn't hook up the gas. We know what's going to happen with us, but right now, in this moment, it's still Simchas Torah. This is God's Yom Tov, and He wants us to be happy. He wants us to dance hakafas and to sing. What was He telling them? Rejoice in God's joy. Put aside your life, your perspective, your script, and get with God's program. What does He want? Be happy about that. And they all kind of ridiculed him. How can you say, here we're going to our deaths, we're in a camp, it's being tortured. How could you say we should be happy? And his response was, this is God's Yom Tov. This is what He wants. And so the boys began to dance and sing. And one of the officers that was there heard the singing. He pushed open the door and he said, what's going on here? How dare you be singing and dancing? And this young leader said, well, today is God's Yom Tov, and we are singing and dancing because we're going to the world of truth. And you don't even exist there. God exists, we will be with Him, and you don't even exist in that world. The officer became completely infuriated, and he told the boys to stop, and they continued, and the more he wanted them to stop, the more they sang and danced their hakafot in this gas chamber. And he pulled them out. He said, I am going to punish you, to torture you, to the point that you will beg me to put you into the chambers. And he locked them in a barrack, in some kind of cabin, and left them there for the night because it was late and he was going to come and do whatever he was planning the next day. Now they were locked in the room, and the boys said to this leader, look what happened, our situation is even worse. And he said, but it's still Simchas Torah, it's still Simchat Torah, and it's still a time to celebrate in God's joy. And he began to sing. He said, we have to dance, we have to sing hakafot, we have to be happy for Him because it's His Yom Tov. And he began to dance and sing. And the boys joined in, and obviously they were making some noise. And another officer was walking by, heard the noise, opens the door to the barracks and looks in, and he says, how many of there are you? He says, perfect. There's a transport leaving. Some work had to be done. They need just this amount of people. Come on out. And he pulls everyone out and put them on, I don't know if it was a truck or a train, and they left the camp and in that way escaped death. The story is so powerful, this testimony to the fact that no matter what is happening in my life, my guiding light has to be, I want God to be happy. And He rejoices in my doing mitzvot, in my living a Torah life. That's what makes Him happiest. So if in this moment that's what I have to do, even though it's something that is painful and uncomfortable to me, because I'm bringing joy to God, I can still experience a very profound level of happiness. Now, this is the last one of the 12 passages that the Rebbe culled from all of the teachings of our sages, Talmudic, mystical, the Bible and the prophets. And the first word of this last verse is Yismach, rejoice, which has the same letters as Mashiach, meaning all that we are doing from Kol Yisrael, or going back even before that, all Jews, going back before that, till the first verse that we began with, that the Torah which God commanded us is the inheritance of every single one of us. It doesn't belong to the rabbi. It's not out there. It's not up on the mountain. It is ours. Each one of us has to own it and do our work. Carries us through all of those verses. Why are we doing the work? What is this all about? Mashiach. Our purpose is to bring Mashiach. And when we do that, we will experience the real joy. Yismach Yisrael ba'esav. As we are taught, then at that time, our mouths will be filled with laughter. Because many times in exile, we laugh. But we're not laughing from our heart, from an inner wellspring. We're laughing and there is sadness somewhere in our mouths. When Mashiach comes, after all of our work and effort, we will be able to laugh, this great big laughter, the era that is associated with Yitzchak, Isaac, the second of our forefathers, associated with tzchok, rejoicing and laughter. When Mashiach comes, we will be able to wring out from our inner beings that great joy that we have been working towards and anticipating. May it come speedily in our days.